Hey everyone, and welcome to Plant-Based Cooking with John, your go-to channel for delicious plant-based recipes that won't break the bank. Whether you're a seasoned cook or just starting out, you'll find easy-to-follow recipes that use simple ingredients and basic kitchen equipment. On today's episode, we're going to be making vegan poke bowls. Okay, so it's just like your normal tuna, except for tuna, we're going to be using watermelon, and we're going to bake that and give it all the necessary ingredients to get it just to where it tastes like that tuna in those favorite poke bowls you love. So let's check it out. Let's first start out by talking about the ingredients that we're going to be using for this recipe. So, as I mentioned in the intro here, we're going to be using a watermelon. Now, you want a seedless watermelon so it avoids the hassle of picking all the seeds out. So try to find one of those. You can also buy it pre-sliced and packaged if you want. However, it's good to cut your own because I'll explain why that is as we go through the recipe. You're going to need to create a marinade. So we're going to use some soy sauce for the marinade. We're going to use some sesame oil for the marinade. We're going back to using our delicious tahini, our sesame butter. You'll also want some ginger, or you can just use ginger powder like the one I'm going to be using in this recipe. You're going to want some seaweed snacks that'll bring out the fishiness that we like in the tuna, but not too overbearing. And then we're also going to be putting it on a bed of rice. Now, you can make the rice according to the package fresh. I don't want to deal with all that hassle, so I got some instant rice here. So I'm just going to follow the package here so it's cooked and ready to go, because it's really not the star of the show. Fresh rice, of course, is a little better, but I want to cut to the chase and get this looking really good. We also are going to be using some rice vinegar. That will be for the rice recipe. And then on the top, you can really use a variety of different veggies if you want, like edamame and things like that. What I'm going to be using for the recipe is some cucumber, some green onion, and we're going to top it off with a little bit of toasted sesame. And then I also picked up some bean sprouts. I think that's a really good thing to add as well. Last but not least, we're also going to make a nice little sauce to go on top of it. It also looks good presentation-wise. To make the sauce, I'm just going to be using some vegan mayo, some barbecue sauce of some kind, and some sriracha. And we're going to combine that all together and make a nice little sauce to go right on top of that, so it really brings out the flavors of the bowl. Let's get started. All right, for the prep work, the first thing you're going to want to do is take the skin off the watermelon. So you can just cut into it. Delicious, fresh watermelon, seedless of course. And the reason why I mentioned that it's best to cut your own is because you want actually the chunks to be bigger than what your typical pre-cut watermelon slices are. And the reason for that is because when it's baking, the watermelon's actually going to shrink. You want to actually cut them in bigger pieces than what are usually presented in the pre-cut slices. So I'm going to finish cutting up this watermelon. Okay, I have finished cutting the rind off the watermelon, and now I want to show you how I cut this and how I maintain some of those chunks. So I'm going to just start cutting pretty thick slices. So like if you can see here, that's about the thickness there, about I guess 2 inches or so. And I'm going to keep doing that. And the chunks that I want are going to be about, so I like to cut this one more time. And then I like to do chunks about this big. And what that's going to do is it's going to shrink it down so it looks quite large, but it will shrink down when it cooks. So you'll want to just cut the rest of the pieces just like that. All right, I have my watermelon cut here. You can see the sizes that I cut. They're a little bigger chunks. And now I'm going to make the marinade that we're going to put these watermelon pieces in. So the first thing I'm going to do is do 1/2 cup of soy sauce and just pour that into the bowl. The next thing I'm going to add is 2 tablespoons of tahini. The next thing you're going to add is 1/4 cup of your sesame oil. Let's put that in. The next thing you're going to need is the seaweed snacks. I would get about 4 crumbled in there. And you can do more depending on how fishy you want it. And then you also want 1 tablespoon of your ginger powder. Pour that right in as well. You're going to just want to whisk this. If you have a blender, you can use that, but you just want to whisk this together until all the ingredients are incorporated. All right, now that I have my marinade fully mixed, I'm just going to add the watermelon slices into the bowl. Make sure all of that marinade gets stuck to that watermelon. All right, I'm ready to start baking the watermelon. So I'm going to be using an air fryer. If you do use an oven, just grab a parchment paper and an oven tray and set it to 400 degrees preheat. And then you will just cook that through for about 30 minutes. Now I'm going to be using an air fryer, so I'm going to kind of cook mine in batches here. So all I'm going to do is take each of my watermelon slices and I'm just going to place them in the air fryer. And I'm making sure that they're nicely coated with my marinade. All right, I have my slices in. Now if you're using an air fryer like me, I would recommend setting the bake to 15 minutes. That way you can flip them halfway through the cook time. While the watermelon's baking, this is a perfect time to start preparing your rice. Now, I would just recommend once the rice is done, season it with salt and pepper, and then just use about 2 teaspoons of rice wine vinegar for every 4th cup of rice that you prepare. All right, now the first 15 minutes of the baking is done, so I'm going to open this. And you'll notice that sometimes they do get charred, and that's okay. That's a normal process. In fact, it's almost better if they're a little bit more cooked than undercooked. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take those pieces and I'm going to put them back in the marinade again and splash them around a little bit. And then I'm going to cook this again for another 15-minute bake time. And then I'm going to make sure that the charred part is actually now for my air fryer facing down, so the other one gets nice and cooked as well. So now that I'm mixing all this in, and now I'm just going to simply put them back into the air fryer, charred down, and we're going to bake this for another 15 minutes. All right, while the last 15 minutes of the watermelon is baking, I went ahead and finished my rice. So I just put that in here. I just added the 2 teaspoons of rice vinegar and a little salt and pepper. So I'm going to set that to the side. And now we're just going to do a little vegetable prep here. And for this recipe, for me, I only have 2 I need to prep. So I'm just going to go ahead and prepare my cucumber. So what I like to do is just slice the outside here, and then instead of cutting it into like rounds, What I like to do is I like to get it to about this thick, and then I like to cut them in little rectangular pieces that look like this. And you can cut them anyway. If you want to do the regular round, you can. It doesn't matter. And then I'm going to cut up my green onion as well. And once again, this is just your preference on how many of the green onion you want to have. And I'm just basically cutting these into little circular pieces. And now we're going to make the sauce. So you'll need the mayo, the barbecue sauce, and the sriracha for this. And what I like to do so I can squeeze it nicely on there is I just take a plastic bag, and basically what you want to do is you want your ratio to be 2 to 1. So every time you use one ratio of the sriracha or one ratio of the barbecue, you want 2 ratios of the mayo. So I'm going to scoop 2 spoonfuls of mayo in my bag. So with 2, I can do 1 spoonful of my barbecue, one more of the sriracha, but that also means that I need 2 more of the spoons of mayo. 2. And then you'll just close this, and you'll just want to mix this around really, really good. And then what's good about keeping it in the baggie is now we can cut off a little corner, and we can nicely, if you have a squeeze bottle, that's great. But if you want a nice little presentation, you can nicely coat the top of the bowl with this sauce. All right, my second round of poké is done baking, or my watermelon, so I'll go ahead and take it out, nice and charred. And then I'm just going to take a little plastic bag, and I'm just going to grab each of the pieces and put them into a plastic bag. Once I have all my poké pieces in a plastic bag, I'm just going to take a couple spoonfuls of the marinade that we made, and I'm going to put that right in there. This will kind of marinate it not only more, but it'll also cool the temperature down a little bit. So once I've added that in, close this, give it a good shake, and then you'll just want to put this in the fridge for about 10 minutes until it cools. All right, my watermelon's done cooling, and there are some charred pieces in here, but you can actually just kind of mix it around within the marinade to get some of those charred pieces off. But I'm basically going to take those pieces, and I'm just going to put them right on my bed of rice, just like this. Okay, and you know, you can put as much on there as you want. I want this to be pretty meaty, so I'm going to put as much as possible on there as I can. And then when you have the poké pieces on there, I would then take the toasted sesame and I would just put that right on those pieces like so. Okay, so it makes it nice and bright. Now we're going to add our veggies. So I have my cucumbers that I cut up. I'm just going to put those to the side of the bowl, and that'll be a nice little palate cleanser for every time I eat. The green onions, I'm just going to sprinkle here on the top. And then I have my my bean sprouts that I'm going to put there on the top. And I still want those pieces to show, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the poké on top there. And then of course when you add the poké or the poké, you'll just want to put a little bit more of those sesame seeds. And then I'm going to also tear up just a little bit of my seaweed, so I'm just going to crumble that up, and that'll just enhance that kind of fishier taste that I'm looking for. So with all the ingredients added and the sauce on top that I piped, you have your complete poké bowl. All right, here it is, looking great. Look at how wonderful that looks. Definitely looks delicious. I'm gonna need to try a little bit of this right now. Definitely want to make sure I get one of the poke pieces in there. Mmm, that is very tasty, especially when you combine it with the rice, a little freshness from the cucumber. Very, very tasty. You also get the crunch from the bean sprouts. Oh, this is a great dish, you guys. So as mentioned before, that was a quick single serving way you can create a poke bowl. It does take a little time, so what I would recommend is cooking them in larger batches. Put them in the marinade as I did at the end where they get cold. And I'm telling you, the longer you let that soak in the marinade, the better, and the more the texture of the tuna will be even better. So 24 hours and even beyond, and then just pulling them out when you're ready to make your bowl with the fresh ingredients is the way to go. And I would say probably keep the watermelon in the marinade. Since it's in the marinade, I would say about a week, 5 days to 7. All right, that concludes this episode. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Definitely hit the alert bell to stay abreast of all the new episodes I'll be coming out with. Like and subscribe. And until then, we'll see you next time.